In today's video, we're going to take a look at how to work with bottom modal sheets within Flutter. We're going to be building an application that will allow the user to click upon a floating action button and then display a bottom modal sheet to them. This sheet is going to include a picture of a polar bear, as well as some text, and then a button that we can click on to share this information. As always, links to all of the resources that I mentioned within this video, as well as the link to the source code, can be found in the description below. So feel free to take a look at it if you're confused at any point. And we're not going to be using any external packages while developing this application. So if that sounds good to you, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you get notified every time I release a new video. And with that, we can get started. So the first thing that I'd like to bring to your attention is that we're going to be starting from scratch. The only thing that I've done is initialized an empty Flutter project. And then for the material app that returned for the My Apps build function, I've set the home property to homepage, and homepage is just an empty stateful widget within which we're going to be adding all of the functionality to show this bottom modal sheet. So to begin, the first thing that I'm going to be doing is running the actual application that you're seeing within Visual Studio Code onto my emulator. And once the application is running on the emulator, then I will resume the video. Welcome back, everybody. So as you can see, the application is now running on the simulator. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is coming to my scaffold and then adding an app bar to my scaffold so that I can actually see some stuff appear on the screen. There we go. It says bottom modal sheet. And from here, we can actually start working on showing the modal sheet. So the first thing that I have to do is get notified when I want to show the sheet. So for that, what I'm doing is implementing a floating action button. And when the user clicks on it, we're going to be showing the actual bottom modal sheet. So to do that, I'm going to set the floating action button property on the scaffold to be a new floating action button instance. And then for the onPressed function callback, for now, I'm going to set that to be an empty function. With this, we can do command save, and you can see that the button is now appearing. So now what I'm going to be doing is quickly setting the child property on the button so that we actually see an icon on it as well. With this done, the next thing that we're going to be doing is now focusing on how to show our bottom modal sheet. So to show our bottom modal sheet, we have a very handy dandy function that Flutter provides to us, and it's called showBottomModalSheets. So we can call it, and once we do this, we need to pass two things to this function. The first is the build context, which we already have since we are actually within the build function and it gets the context passed to it. And the next is the builder function, which basically defines how this bottom modal sheet is going to be built. So for the builder function, it basically takes in a context and then it returns a widget, which is going to be the one that is going to be displayed as a modal bottom sheet. So what I'm going to be doing here is basically going ahead and returning a column. And once that is done, I'm going to set the children's list for the column to be an empty list for now. And with this, let's do command save and let's test it out. So as you can see, once we clicked on the button, the actual screen got a bit dim. And the reason for that is because it's now showing our modal bottom sheet. But because our modal bottom sheet doesn't have anything within it right now, we can't actually see the content. So now we're going to be addressing that issue. The first thing that I'm going to be doing is adding the image that we were seeing. So for that, within this column, I'm going to be adding a container. And once again, the reason we're using a column is because we're going to be displaying multiple different widgets in a vertical layout, and for that we use a column. So here what I'm going to do now is say that I'm going to use a container, and the container is going to have a height of 300 and a width of 300. And once that is done, the next thing that I'm going to do is add an image to the container. So to do that, I'll define the decoration property on my container, then set the decoration property to box decoration. For the box decoration, define the image property and set that to the property called decoration image. And then on that, I have an image property, which I'm going to set to network image. And once this is done, the last thing that we have to do is add a URL here. So I'm going to copy and paste the URL in. And this is a URL that I got from a website called Pexels. And it's an awesome website that I highly recommend you guys take a look at if you want to implement some photography or images within your actual application that are copyright free. So if I do this and do command save, you're going to see nothing is going to change. And the reason for that is that hot reload changes are not reflected on our actual modal sheets. So what you have to do is click on the button again, and this time you're going to see that the modal sheet appears and the image is being displayed within it as well. So now that this is done, we can move on to the next part, which is to actually show some text. So to show the text for the polar bear, I'm just going to copy and paste that in because it's very simple. All we're doing is that after our container within the children's list for our column, I'm adding this text widget. And now if I go ahead and click on it again, you can see that there's the text. Then I can copy the next text, paste it in once more. And once I do this, you can see that there we go. We're seeing the text and everything looks great. One issue that I can see here is that the text is taking all of the space and it's going to the edges of my actual sheet. And what I'd like to do is maybe add some padding from the sides and the top so that the actual content doesn't go to the very edges. So for that, what I can do is come to my column, and then I'm going to wrap this with a widget, and you can do Control-Shift-R on Mac. I believe it should be Command-Shift-R on Windows, and this should open the refactor menu if you have the Flutter extension installed. Otherwise, you can right-click and do refactor here as well, but basically I'm wrapping the column with a padding widget. And then once this is done, I'm going to change the padding to be edge insets, and then I'm going to do symmetric. So what symmetric basically does is that if I define vertical, then it's going to apply the same amount of padding from the top and bottom. So in this case, a value of 5.0 worked for me. And then I'm also going to define the padding on the horizontal axis. So it's going to be 25.0 from both the left and right. Let's do save. I'll also mark this as const. And let's test it out once more. And there we go. Now our bottom model sheet appears much nicer, and the content that is within it has some nice padding applied to it. So the final thing that I'd like to do is to add an actual button. And there are many ways we can go about this. We can use the normal button widgets that we have, but I've kind of, through my testing, concluded that the list tile that is provided to us is an excellent button replacement we can think of when it comes to displaying some kind of an action item within our actual bottom model sheet. So feel free to use a button widget if you want to use those, but a list tile works sufficiently well as well. So what I'm going to do is, after the final text widget that I have, I'm going to add a list tile. And then this list tile is going to have a leading property, which is going to be const icon. And then I'm going to do icons.share. There we go. And once I do this, let's do save and let's test it out. There we go. I can see the list tile. So now what I'm going to be doing is actually adding a title to it as well. And the title will be const text, and I can do share. And let's click on this. Let's see how it looks. There we go. It looks great. So the final thing that I'd like to do is to actually show you guys how we can displace a bottom model sheet programmatically. So for that, I'll define a onTap function callback on my actual list tile. And then within the actual onTap function, so this is the actual callback function, which is going to get a callback when we actually tap on the list tile. I'm going to do navigator.pop. And that's pretty much all we have to do, pass it the context. And what pop is basically going to do is that it's going to remove the most recent thing that's on the navigation stack. And in this case, that's going to be our bottom model sheet. So we'll come back to the home page that we're seeing. So with this, let's give it a final test. I open the bottom model sheet, everything looks great. I click on share, and there we go. The bottom model sheet gets dismissed. So with that, that's pretty much it for today's video. I hope that you learned a thing or two about how to work with bottom model sheets within Flutter. As always, if you enjoyed the video, then please don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel so that you get notified every time I release a new video. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.